So, you think you're safe online? Come on, you use incognito mode. You figure you've got nothing to hide, so what's the big deal, right? Well, today we're going to tear apart some of those common sense privacy rules that honestly might be putting you in more danger than you realize.
But I want you to actually think about that for a second. How safe are you really? That comfortable feeling you have when you're browsing, is it based on solid facts or just, things you've always done?
Look, we all have these little rules of thumb we use to protect our data. It makes sense. But in the world of tech and cybersecurity, things move so fast that common wisdom can get outdated and, frankly, become pretty dangerous. So what if the rules you're counting on are just myths?
We're going to dive into 3 of the biggest, most dangerous privacy myths out there. We'll break down what we think is true versus what's actually going on with our data.
Okay, let's start with the big one, the classic. This is the argument you hear all the time when the topic of privacy comes up. And it sounds so reasonable on the surface, but it completely misses the whole point of what privacy is even for.
And there it is. I've got nothing to hide. People say it constantly. The idea is, hey, I'm not doing anything illegal, so who cares if someone sees my data? It makes it sound like privacy is a shady thing that only criminals need. But that's a huge, huge misunderstanding of what's really at stake. See, here's the problem. What you call nothing, your search history, where you had lunch, what you bought online, that's a literal gold mine for hackers and data brokers. Your boring data is an incredibly valuable asset to them. And if you want proof, take a look at this. This is real-world stuff from the T-Mobile breach in 2023. The victims weren't international spies. They were just regular people with phone plans. But their full names, birth dates, addresses, even their social security numbers, all stolen. This is the nothing that people think they have to hide. And it's basically the complete starter kit for identity theft.
So the whole assumption is just flawed from the start. You think your data is boring, but to a criminal, it's the raw material for fraud. You think you're not a target, but these breaches hit millions of innocent people all at once. And you think surveillance won't affect you, right up until some algorithm makes a mistake and flags you for something you didn't do. The nothing to hide argument doesn't protect you from any of that.
All right, let's get to myth number 2. This is a big one. A technical misunderstanding that gives so many people a false sense of security every single day. We've all done it, right? Popped open an incognito window thinking we're now a ghost on the internet. But what it actually does is much, much simpler. All it does is tell your own computer not to save your history and cookies. The key words there are on your device. It doesn't do a thing to hide you from the rest of the web.
And this is the part everyone needs to understand. Even in incognito mode, the websites you go to, they still see you. Your internet provider, whether it's Comcast or Verizon or whoever, they can still see you. And if you're using a work or school network, you better believe they can see everything. You're not invisible, not even close. Now, I want you to just look at this number. Billions. With a B. What in the world could that possibly be about when we're talking about private browsing? Well, the story behind this is kinda wild. That's right. That is the number of data records that Google, yes, Google itself, was accused of collecting from people who thought they were browsing privately in incognito mode. As part of a massive settlement in 2024, they agreed to delete all of it. This wasn't some little bug, it was a huge deal.
And hey, if you need any more proof, you don't have to take my word for it. Just open an incognito tab on Chrome right now. The company's own warning screen tells you it's only more private. That's a direct admission that it is not, and it never was, truly anonymous.
Okay, for our third myth, we're going to zoom out a little bit. From our personal habits to global rules. We're talking about Europe's big data privacy law, the GDPR. And you might think this doesn't apply to you, but trust me, it absolutely does. A lot of people, especially in the US, hear GDPR and their eyes just kind of glaze over.
They figure, okay, that's a law for European companies, it's their problem. But assuming that, well, that can be a billion-dollar mistake.
Just look at that number. 1.2 billion euros. That's not a typo. That is the kind of fine we're talking about when a company gets GDPR wrong, no matter where in the world its headquarters are.
And here's the perfect example. That massive fine, it was handed to Meta, an American company, in 2023. And why? Because they were illegally moving data about their European users onto servers in the US. It's the ultimate proof that GDPR has very long arms. And that wasn't just a one-off thing to make a point. Nope, this is happening again and again. Here's another giant fine from just a few months later.
This time it was TikTok, another non-EU company, hit with a €345 million fine for breaking GDPR rules about kids' data. The message from the regulators is crystal clear. If you handle data from EU citizens, you have to play by EU rules. Period.
But here's the most important part. GDPR isn't the exception anymore. It's basically the blueprint. You've got major economies all over the world creating their own similar laws, like California with CCPA or Brazil with LGPD. For global tech companies, it's just becoming way easier to apply that high European standard everywhere, rather than trying to juggle a dozen different sets of weaker rules. A high bar for privacy is becoming the new normal, worldwide.
So, we've busted 3 huge myths. And you might be sitting there thinking, okay, so what now? Well, the goal here isn't to scare you or make you paranoid. It's to empower you. So let's quickly talk about what this all means for you.
Here is your new upgraded privacy playbook. 3 key takeaways. First, ditch the nothing to hide argument. Your data is valuable and privacy is what protects you, not criminals. Second, understand the tools you're using. Know that incognito mode is just for keeping things off your own device. It is not an invisibility cloak. And third, recognize that these strong privacy laws are going global, and they're raising the standard for everyone.
So, we've swapped out some pretty common myths with some pretty hard facts, which leaves us with one last question. And this one's for you. Knowing what you know now, what's one thing you're going to change about how you handle your digital life?